Hello, friends.
Hello friends.
Welcome to Storytime with Arna.
Welcome to Storytime with Arna.
Today we are going to read Osborne first reading Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a kind little girl called Little Red Riding Hood. She always wore a bright red cloak with a bright red hood. I love it so much, I never take it off.
Even, even when we are sleeping?
Maybe. Little Red Riding Hood lived with her mother on the edge of some deep dark woods. Here, let's have a look at the map of the deep dark woods by Little Red Riding Hood. Mother Red Riding Hood, that's me, Little Red Riding Hood, our cottage, Granny's cottage, Granny Red Riding Hood. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother gave her a pot of vegetable soup. Take this to your grandmother, she said. She is not feeling well. But remember the rules of the wood, her mother added. Rules of the woods. 1. Keep to the path. 2. Don't talk to wolves. I will, promised Little Red Riding Hood. And she set off. Oh, there's a bird saying tweet tweet.
Yeah, there's a tweet.
Oh, and look, there's a fox hiding behind. Ah, there goes my lunch, thought the fox. At first, the sun shone and the birds sang. Little Red Riding Hood hummed a little tune. Ha ha, the fox is thinking. Bent down to tie her shoelace. Oh, just as the fox was about to try and catch her. She skipped along the path and stopped to smell the flowers. And the fox is about to catch her at last. Good morning, Little Red Riding Hood, called a woodcutter. Rats, thought the fox. Good morning, said Little Red Riding Hood, waving to him. Now the fox is thinking, I know, I'll run ahead and wait for her. Little Red Riding Hood walked deeper and deeper into the woods. It grew darker and darker. Then the sun hid behind the clouds and it got darker still. The fox is thinking, come on, lunch, where are you? So Little Red Riding Hood didn't see the wolf waiting for her on the path. And the wolf didn't see Little Red Riding Hood either. My tail! Whoops! Little Red Riding Hood stepped on the wolf's tail. Then on his paw. My paw! And dropped the basket smack on his head. My head! Look where you're going, said the wolf huffily. But you were in the middle of the path, said Little Red Riding Hood. She had forgotten the rule. Don't talk to wolves.
And strangers.
And strangers, that's right. What have you got in that basket? Asked the wolf hungrily. Vegetable soup, replied Little Red Riding Hood. I am taking it to my grandmother. Vegetables? Cried the wolf. How revolting!
What does revolting mean?
Revolting means something that the fox don't like. Wolves only eat juicy red meat. I never touch vegetables, he added. Now, time for my lunch, he's thinking. The wolf was about to gobble up Little Red Riding Hood, but then he had an idea. Perhaps I can eat Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother, he thought. He put on his softest voice. Where does your grandmother live? He asked. In the cottage on the other side of the woods, said Little Red Riding Hood. How perfect, thought the wolf, rubbing his tummy. How delicious. Why don't you take her some flowers? He suggested. That's a lovely idea,
But,
said Little Red Riding
but she
Hood.
forgot to not listen to strangers and wolves.
Correct. What a kind wolf you are, said Little Red Riding Hood. So Little Red Riding Hood left the path to look for flowers, and the wolf raced off to the grandmother's house. He knocked lightly on the door. Tap, tap, tap. I am so wonderfully wicked and clever, thought the wolf. Who's there? Asked the grandmother. Your granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood, squeaked the wolf. Oh, and here on the door it's written no wolves. I have bought you some lovely vegetable soup. Let yourself in, said the grandmother. I'm too weak to get up. The wolf leaped into the room. He gobbled up Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother. Bony but not bad. Then he climbed into the bed to wait for Little Red Riding Hood. Soon he heard a knock at the door. Who's there? He said. Your granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood. Let yourself in, called the wolf. I'm too weak to get up. He pulled on the grandmother's cap and hid under the blankets. I have bought you some vegetable soup, said Little Red Riding Hood. Lovely, snarled the wolf. I mean, lovely, he added in a squeak. Put the basket on the stool and come and sit next to me. Little Red Riding Hood looked at her grandmother. She looked again. Oh, grandmother, what big ears you have! All the better to hear you with, said the wolf. Little Red Riding Hood came closer to the bed. Oh, grandmother, she said, what big eyes you have! All the better to see you with, said the wolf. Little Red Riding Hood came closer still. Oh, grandmother, she said, what big hairy hands you have! All the better to hug you with, said the wolf. Little Red Riding Hood was now standing right next to the bed. But grandmother, she cried, what big sharp teeth you have! All the better to eat you with, snapped the wolf. He jumped out of the bed and gobbled up Little Red Riding Hood. Delicious, thought the wolf. Full at last, he said, licking his lips. Then he lay down on the bed to sleep. As the wolf slept, he snored very loudly. He snored so loudly, the woodcutter heard him. I have never heard the old woman snore that loudly, he thought. I'll just make sure she's okay. But the woodcutter couldn't see the grandmother anywhere, only a very fat wolf. Oh no, thought the woodcutter, the wolf's eaten the old woman. Just then, the woodcutter had an idea. Perhaps the old woman is still inside you. I might be able to save her. He picked up some scissors, then he snipped open the wolf's tummy. Snip, snip. He saw bright red hood. Snip, snip. Little Red Riding Hood's head popped out. Keep cutting, she cried. Grandmother's still in there. Snippety snip, faster and faster. The woodcutter kept cutting until grandmother popped out too. Did I fall asleep? Quick as flash, Little Red Riding Hood ran outside and picked up lots of stones. The woodcutter put them in the wolf's tummy, and the grandmother sewed the tummy up. Then the wolf woke up. He tried to sneak out of the door, but the stones rattled inside him. Rattle, rattle, rattle. Now everyone can hear you coming, said the woodcutter, laughing. But I'll never catch anyone, cried the wolf. Exactly, said the woodcutter. You'll just have to eat vegetables instead, said Little Red Riding Hood. The wolf never ate another person. I don't like little girls. As for Little Red Riding Hood, she never ever talked to another wolf again.
That's the end of the story.
Wasn't that fun?
Yes.
Okay, see you next time. Bye bye.